Good morning. Welcome back to the Voodoo Garden. My name is Ray. I am the host of this menagerie of green and yellow and purple and pink and blue and all different colors of the rainbow. This weird nonsense I lovingly call the Garden of Voo or the Voodoo Garden. Look at this. I got to show this thing off because, I don't know, why not? If you can grow them, show them. I got this. This is my coleus that I've been growing forever. I think 2 years now. You've seen this. It's a perennial here. It just grows and it grows. I butcher it. It comes back. It doesn't seem to care that I abuse it so harshly. But the abuse that I give it really isn't abuse. It's tough love. And it keeps the plant growing as healthy as it possibly can. Look at the size of this. This is actually for indoor. I mean, outdoor, you can't really compare indoor with outdoor. But indoor growing with no extra light, just artificial lighting that I have here in the Voodoo Garden that I've shown you before. This is what I grow. And I've recently put in some compost in here, so I think the compost has a lot to do with it. But what I think is really spectacular is that now the coleus is starting to flower. It's putting out flower buds. Normally, I prefer to grow a coleus just for the green, just for the different colored leaves and the health of the leaves. But this time, I thought, why not? Just let it flower. So I have all these flower stalks growing up, and they're actually not bad. It's a good color contrast to a coleus. Oh yes, we're getting up close and personal just because I want you to see the beauty when you come right up close to view. You can view it from a distance away and you're like, it's a coleus, but only when you get up close do you really appreciate the intricacy of the colors, the patterns, and also the flowers. Yeah, most people don't think of coleus with flowers, but this is what they look like. These flowers were a lot more striking about a week ago, but the flowers are dying off. There are going to be more flower stalks. If they have seeds, I have no idea. But what they'll do is when you're growing a coleus, it'll eventually, if you're lucky, and they're growing healthy, they will put out these little stalks of flowers, little clusters, and then as the plant gets older and healthier and bigger, the stalks will be bigger and there will be more of them. That's why this one at the top had bigger stalks of flowers. On a lot of the growing tips, that's what's happening. We're starting to get the flowers. They don't really have much of a smell, but they do have a really nice violet, light blue color that goes really well with the rest of the plant. Now I'm going to show you down at the bottom because this has everything to do with what I'm doing today in the Voodoo Garden. This was just one itty bitty little starter that I popped into soil and I grew and I grew. And this is what happens. I prune it back and it puts out more and more growing tips. So you can see what I did down here. You can see where I cut it back here and it put out more over here, them over there, and I cut those back as well. Now what that does is it causes it to fork and send out side shoots, what people call on tomato plants suckers or runners. That's all it is. Tomato plant, coleus, any other plant, it's the same thing. People call them suckers on tomatoes because they think that it just drains the energy off of it. Does this look like they're draining any energy off the plant? No. I would say the answer is no. So you can actually benefit yourself if you want to have a plant that's going to be bushier and not quite as tall. But eventually this will get taller. But you can also add some width to it and some health to strengthen up the stems at the bottom so that in time when your plant does get to be large, they can support the weight and the production on top. That benefits you in peppers, tomatoes, a lot of things that are heavy producers in the way of vegetables. But for ornamentals, it does the same thing. Now, I've taken one cutting off of this just to demonstrate. It was an itty bitty little piece of a plant, and I put it in water, I let it root, and then I put it into soil, and this is what it looks like today. It started out as just the smallest cutting, and you can see the original leaves got huge for a little cutting. This is about a month ago. Yeah, and I cut off most of the leaves and stuff so that it wouldn't have a lot of stuff to support while it was rooting. But I put it into soil just recently, and you can see the size of the stem. But also this cluster on top is 3 growing tips because there was no growing tip on it because I snipped that off. So I have 3 growing tips. This has got a very good start for a plant. Eventually it'll have 3 plants coming up out of it, and it'll be a nice bushy plant just like its mother. Do I need another plant in here? Absolutely yes. Yes. You thought I was going to say no. I always need more plants. You can never have too many plants. If you are buried alive and the only thing sticking out of the greenery is your nose, you still do not have enough plants. Take my word, I'm an expert at this. But the star of the show today is what's called a croton. C-R-O-T-O-N, croton. A croton is a plant that grows very much like a dragon tree or a Dieffenbachia, also known as dumb cane. A dragon tree is different but similar in ways to this. Dieffenbachia, different but similar. Now the difference is, of course, they're all different plants. The similarity is they grow these stalks from the soil, and they tend to be graceful, long stalks, but not too awful thick. And then the leaves that grow along them in all three different plants tend to grow all along the stalk. What people will do generally in dragon trees and also dumb canes is they'll snip off the lower leaves, and that leaves a top display of leaves, and that gives it the graceful look. You can leave the leaves on, you can snip them off. It's all a matter of personal preference. Now, there was a friend of mine on Facebook who sent me a message. Her name is Kayla. Good morning, Kayla. This show is for you, and it's also for anybody who wants to accentuate their plants, change their plants, propagate their plants, do it safely, and also have a little bit of fun with it. She asked me about her croton. So I'm going to address that today. As soon as I back this camera up, I'll get started. This plant is really growing on me, and I know that's a pun, but it's true. I got this as a smaller plant. It was about maybe 2/3 the size. I got it about maybe a month ago. It was one of those specials that they had at Walmart, not very expensive at all. I transplanted it, of course, into a larger pot. That's what I always do, because when you buy these plants at the store, they're generally root bound, and you don't want to leave them that way, because when you purchase a plant at the store, those plants are force-fed, and I do mean force-fed because their soil really doesn't have a lot to offer. They're force-fed liquid fertilizers to keep them super healthy. That's why they look so beautiful and perfect. They're grown under the optimum amount of light, heat, humidity in industrial greenhouses, and they're pumped full of chemicals in order to make them look absolutely beautiful. It's kind of like a regular person and a person who's all made up and photoshopped and makeup and fancy clothes and stuff. That may all be beautiful, but the real life situation of plants is that's not how they grow. And I like to grow things about as naturally as I possibly can. I can't give them natural stuff down here, but I can give them the most natural soil. I can give them the most natural care as far as watering and humidity and stuff. Do the very best that I possibly can. Now, with that being said, there are certain things that we like to do when we grow plants indoors. We like to change them up. Like I like to prune this down just to make it bushier. That isn't really that natural, but then again, it suits my purposes. So I walk this little balance, a fine line. Now, Kayla asked me, excuse me, Kayla asked me, I'm going through the change. Kayla asked me, she had a photo that she sent me, and I'll show you a photo of her croton right here. Yeah, that's a beauty, isn't it? Puts this one to shame. But this is one that she received as a gift, and I think her mom got it, and she grew it, and it was passed down. This is a very valuable plant, sentimental value for the plant, and she wants to give it the very best care she possibly can. The thing is that you can see from the plant, it's getting kind of tall. Well, crotons in captivity, and I call this captivity, generally only get about maybe 2, maybe 3 feet tall, and then they start looking a little bit wonky. Hers is close to 4 feet tall, and that is something to be said for an indoor plant. Plus you can see all the leaves along the stem. That's what I'm talking about. They grow leaves all along the stem. The problem with hers is that she can't give it the exact environment that she wants. She's going to have to use the stake to hold it up because it's got a lot of leaves, and the stem is not as strong as it would be in nature. And that's because, of course, it's not going to get the root growth with a bigger pot, with unlimited soil. It's not going to get the natural sunlight that it needs, all of these things. And also the wind blowing it back and forth to make it stronger. So, of course, the stem is going to be a little bit thinner and not quite as strong as it would be in nature. Well, we can help that out just a little bit with a little bit of care and creativity, and that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to take my plant, and I know it looks good and it looks even here, but I want to help you guys out. So these plants are not only my friends and my pets and my companions, they're also teaching guides. And I like to teach you. So I'm going to take one of my plants, and I'm going to I guess for lack of a better word, I'm going to butcher this plant to help Kayla and also to help you, because the same process that I'm going to be doing on this will apply to a lot of your plants indoors. So I want to show you firsthand, and if I didn't believe in what I'm doing, I wouldn't be doing it with my own plants. So you can take this as my experience. It's not the definitive advice. I never give definitive advice on anything, because there's always different ways of doing things. We all have our different paths, our different ways of growing plants, and it suits our needs. I can't grow plants like you, you can't grow plants like me, but I can teach you with my experience so that you can actually have the confidence to do it yourself. So if you see me doing it, you know I have confidence in it. And what you're going to need: sharp knife or sharp scissors, because anything dull isn't going to work, okay? You want to make sure you get clean cuts when you cut these plants. What I'm going to do is show you how to make the stem thicker, to make the plant sturdier and healthier, and also to get more plant for your dollar. Okay, you sit here, and me, I'm going to start snipping. How's that for a close-up view? Nothing but the best for my friends. Okay, we're going to start with the one on the right. And the reason I want to start with the one on the right is because it's showing signs that it wants to do something different, more so than the one on the left. And I'll show you why. All right, as I hold this up and try and be as steady as possible, right here on the left, you can see it has leaves going from the soil line all the way up. And at each junction where the leaf touches the stem, the main stem, you can get new shoots to grow. Now if you look over to the right, while I try and hold this, look, here's an example of that new growth that you can get. Yep, and it's doing it in quite a few spots along here. So this one is a prime candidate. But I'm not saying that you can't do this with plants that don't have that, because once you start cutting this and doing the procedure I'm going to show you, they will put out new shoots. Okay, so what I'm going to do, first thing we want to do is we want to make sure, see, she only has one coming up. So this will work for her. What I would say is you go above the first set of leaves or the second. It doesn't matter. If you want to play it safe, go above the second. I'm going to go to the first. Now what you want to do is you don't want to cut this. No, I'm not going to do this with my finger. Don't cut it straight across. Cut it at a 45-degree angle. All right? And do it right between the leaf sets equally. From the one leaf set to the bottom, right in the middle, cut it at a 45-degree angle with a sharp scissor or knife, and there we go. Now, you want to do this relatively quick, but don't rush yourself. Don't worry, the plant's not going to die. We snip off the leaves along this stem. Don't worry, it's not going to hurt it. This is actually going to help it. If you leave a lot of leaves on there, you can fail. And there's a higher probability of failure, because what does this not have? All right, this is question and answer time in the class of Ray. It doesn't have roots. And without roots, a plant is relatively helpless. So you want to make sure that you make it as easy as possible, because all of these leaves require being fed. It's like children. They need to be fed every single day. Now, dad or mom does not have a job, doesn't have roots to feed them. So you want to make sure that you relieve the parent plant of as much responsibility as possible. That means if you have kids, no cookies, no ice cream. Mom and dad don't have a job right now. Giving you life advice. Now, you can place this into the soil and it will grow roots from certain sections of it. But you know what? This is a long enough piece. We can do two things. I can actually take this stem and go up a few sections, maybe about 4 or 5 sections, and do a straight across cut right around here. Oh, it fell off. All right, now we're going to take this 45-degree angle. Another thing you're going to need is you don't need it, but it really does help. Rooting hormone. What brand you get is up to you. I don't promote any particular brand. I just open it up and leave a couple leaves. You don't need a lot up here, just a couple, okay? Then you dip this in as far as you can get it, and you dust it. Just like that. Tap it all off, just like a powdered donut. There. You have rooting hormone on it. Now what that does is it stimulates the plant to put out new roots. I have a cup with some potting soil, and it's the potting soil that I mixed up. You know what kind I have. It's very rich, very well drained, and it isn't packed in there. Do not pack your soil in here. Just lightly put it in there because you want to push this down, all the way down, until it's up to the leaves. And there you go. Give it a light watering to make sure the soil is moist but not soaking wet. See, I don't put holes in the bottom of my cups. You should if you're unclear about how to water, because I know how much water this will hold without getting soggy. That's just from experience. I'm no expert or anything. I've just learned from screwing up. So what you want to do is give it a moist watering. Don't worry about when you press it in there with the rooting hormone coming off the stem. We put extra on there. So now it has plenty of rooting hormone. You give it some water, set it out of direct sunlight. Put it in bright light, like maybe away from the window, regular household light. Don't worry about it growing or anything. It's not supposed to grow right now. It's supposed to focus on putting down roots. It gets a little bit of light to keep these leaves alive, and that way they can generate some energy in order to put the roots down there. It's got some energy in its stem in order to put these roots down. So what we are doing right now is it's a race against time. Will it put down roots before the leaves die? And with the rooting hormone and keeping it out of direct sunlight causes this plant to go into growing overtime. That's why you want to keep it out of direct sunlight for a couple weeks. But you want to give it just enough light to let it know that it's daytime and it's not in a dungeon or anything like that. All right, there's one. Next one. We have this, another cup of soil. That little piece that fell off? No. That is, oops, it's upside down. Now that one we're going to put into rooting hormone as well. Toss it in there, dust it around a bit. Try and get it up around maybe 3/4 of the way up. Dust it off. Try not to breathe this in. It's not like it's going to kill you, but you don't want to be breathing in anything that you don't absolutely have to. There we go. We're going to shove that into the soil and leave about maybe 2 sections above the soil, and that way that's where new leaves will grow, new starts will grow. This one has a very good chance of surviving as well because it has no leaves to support. Now there's 2 different ways of thinking. This has no leaves, so it can't generate energy. This one has leaves, so it can generate energy. Another way of thinking is this has no leaves to support. It can put all its energy into developing roots. However you think about it doesn't matter to me. But what that'll do is you have 2 plants coming out of there, and then down here we have the mother plant that has all of her roots, a few leaves down here to generate energy, and she has 1 to 2 sections, and with all of that energy and that that's stored up in her roots and her stem and a few leaves to help generate energy, you don't have to set her out of the sun either. She can just stay in the area where she was. They do like bright light. Full sun, for me, has tended to cause leaf burn on these things because they just don't seem to handle full sun very well. If it's winter, the sun's low enough in the sky to where they can handle full sun. In summer, it just gets way too hot. But since it's winter, you can put it right by the window. Kayla, I'm assuming it's winter where you are. Put it by the window, not right up close because it can get really cold during the winter. Put it back about maybe 1 foot or 2 feet. Give it some time. Don't overwater because it doesn't have all of that plant to support anymore, so it doesn't need as much water. Make sure you keep an eye on the water. Don't water too much and just give it time. In maybe a couple weeks, 3 weeks or so, you're going to start seeing little buds coming out at the bottom, and you're going to have a fresh new plant. And also, you have a very, very strong possibility of having 2 more to add to your collection. And while I'm thinking about it, I might as well give these a little water. You can never have too many plants because even if you don't have a ton of room to grow your plants, you do have friends, you do have family, you have co-workers, you have, I don't know, people on the street. Hand them out to people on the street. How can that be a bad thing? You're just giving them a house plant, something that they can enjoy. Now I'm going to put these right here. That way they'll be in a decent amount of light once I turn these lights back on, but they're not going to be underneath the really strong light. This looks a little bit ridiculous, but then again, I really don't mind. Ridiculous is my middle name. Now, there are other plants that you can do this with. You can do them with, you can do this with philodendrons. You can do this with another type of philodendron, pothos, dumpcane. You know what? I'm going to take you around here and just show you a few of the plants that I do this with so that you can see the different types of structure on the plants and how you can do it. So even if you don't have a croton, those of you at home, if you have different kinds of plants, I'm going to show you how to do those just by swinging you around the room and just giving you a really quick update on how I do it with various plants. How's that? These itty bitty Asian beetles, Chinese beetles, they're just running right along. This one has been running around the rim of this pot for I think an entire day. Yeah, once they get going, they don't stop. There is no end to this. What this plant is, some of you may know, it's kind of a spoiler, but I'm not going to bring it up on this program. I'll bring it up on the next program. How's that sound? But I want to show you other plants that you can take rootings and cuttings from. One of them is English ivy. Yep, you can do that. It's not as easy as some other plants, but they will root. If you take them, dip them in rooting powder, and then put them in soil or stick them in water for a while. I have better luck with rooting powder. These come in a variety of colors and patterns and stuff. And boy, when they start vining, they go for it. Dieffenbachia, that's the one I mentioned earlier, or dumb cane, comes in a variety of patterns, colors, sizes, shapes. This one tends to grow more compact, and it has a lot of these in here. As I kneel down and shove your face in here, look at all of these. Some folks like to just grow one per pot. Some like to have them nice and bushy. These ones, they grow in clusters. They come up from the soil, kind of like asparagus. So you can actually reach in there and snap one off and bring it out with the roots, and you can plant a whole new plant and thin this one out. But also when it gets taller, it'll have that stem just like I showed you with the croton. And you can do the exact same thing with that stem. So Dieffenbachia or dumb cane is a good one for that. And he's coming around the bend for round 2. Little Chinese beetle in the lead. Little Chinese beetle. Arrowhead. Arrowhead is a beauty. Remember that huge one I had here? It was monstrous. Well, I got rid of that one and it grew wild. This is a new baby that I purchased, and it was an itty bitty one. Now it's growing more and more. They will put out, just like the dumb cane that I have, more and more plants out of the bottom, but they also will grow up for a while and then start vining down. You can take cuttings exactly like that. Even though the stem is not straight up and is not exactly totally solid, it has the same growing structure as the plants that I've shown you on how to take cuttings. So yes, you can do that with the arrowheads. And that's also a good thing, because if you don't have a full pot, you can take cuttings out and dip them in a little rooting hormone and then put them around the perimeter and water them, and they will fill out that pot nicely. Yeah, they will. And this one, of course, I've shown many, many times. This is my pothos. It's called a marble queen. Isn't that pretty? Yeah, it's unlike the regular green ones. It has a really nice pattern to it. I've been doing this with this plant for a long time, taking cuttings and placing them back into the soil. And everywhere I cut it, it tends to grow back. So it just keeps getting thicker and thicker as we go along. It's a wonderful plant to take cuttings from. Down on the floor, right next to the giant pothos, this one is called the Dracaena or dragon tree. Dragon trees come in a variety of colors and sizes. These have the stem pattern similar to the croton, only their leaves are long and full leaves all the way to the stem, kind of like a corn plant. And some of them are called corn plants as a nickname. And what you do is, instead of having a stem with a leaf, it just has the leaf here. So you just yank down, straight down, and it pulls the leaf off of there. It doesn't hurt it at all. And then as these grow, they'll have a nice, slender stalk. And also you can do the cutting once they get taller. A lot of folks that have dragon trees, they have that cluster of leaves right on top and the long snaking stems. And it's a really beautiful look to it. Yes, it is. Up on the shelf is one of many different types of philodendron. This is a vining philodendron. It has different patterns. It has this kind of pattern, and then off of the same exact stem, look, here's one with a pattern, but look, it all of a sudden decided it didn't want to have a pattern anymore, and it's putting out these beautiful, solid, like a lemon lime colored green leaves. Yeah, it's working all kinds of weird wonders around here. But I have taken a cutting off and put it into the pot. Now I want to show you, without jerking the camera around too awful much, this is where I took the cutting. You can see where I snipped it off, right where my middle finger is, but look right next to it. That's new growth. That's a new shoot coming out, and also at the base of it you can see little roots. Yeah. Now I could actually snip this off. I'm trying to do this with one hand, so please pardon me. I could snip it off right here where my thumb is, place this into soil where the roots are, right up to about right there, where my thumb is, and that would grow a whole new plant. I'm going to do it with the next section, and on and on. Look at all of this. Where they get those nubby roots, that will grow. Or you can just lay this entire length of it into soil and just have these leaves sticking up. Just lay it like this. And each one of those roots will go down, and this will turn into a monstrosity of a strong plant with new growth and roots all along its stem. There are a variety of ways to get what you want from your plants, and not all of them are exactly the same, but you do get some really good results. With the pruning back of that croton, you're going to have multiples coming up out of it eventually, and as those grow up, you can cut those back, and those will grow multiples, similar to this papaya. See? I cut it off, and look, it's growing multiples out of there. And there's one final one. That would be this, the one I keep mispronouncing. And I will continue to mispronounce it because I don't know, and I really don't care. Koi or Cho, whatever you want to call it, this is it. And it puts out these little delicate looking flowers right here. Now this one right here, you can see a couple fungus gnats growing along here, but they haven't been bothering anything, so I'm not dealing with them. In a future episode, I'll get on it, but I'm really kind of busy right now. But this is the baby. Look at the leaves. They're nice and big and fat and juicy. It's a very healthy baby that I transplanted into here off of a cutting from its mother right over here. She has slightly smaller leaves because she has more plant to support. And in one episode I showed that she wasn't doing so well. So I cut back on our water and I took a cutting off of it, and you can see right down here the little roots. Yep, that's what I did. I just took a cutting and I put it in soil, kept it watered, and there you have a baby. There's the results. I could have taken so many more off her, but I just didn't feel like it. I forgot. Little baby Groot. Yeah, he got a new hairdo. I put a little spider baby off the spider plant in his head, and I'm growing it out of Groot. So eventually, he's going to have these dreadlock looking things coming off the side. Keep tuned for that. I want to see how much of a spider plant I can grow in that itty bitty pot. That ought to be interesting. But I hope you did enjoy this program and you learned a little bit of something. And Kayla, don't be afraid, okay? Your plants are a lot more resilient than you might think. Give it a shot. You'll never know what you're going to get unless you walk outside the box and do a little bit of creative thinking, because not everything is exactly how the experts want us to believe. We can do all kinds of amazing things if we just give it a try. Just give it a try. Now, if you have any questions concerning any indoor garden, I'm no expert. I'm just a gardener who just loves growing things. I make mistakes, I have successes, just like you. But I will give you the benefit of any experience I have on any question that you ask me. I'll give you the very best answer I possibly can. So, with that being said, I got to get going. I got a lot of mess to clean up, and I will see you in 2 weeks, right back here in the Voodoo Garden. Until then, this is Ray and his slightly lopsided croton. It's going to be okay, and I'll show you the updates too. We're out of here.